Adana sat at the back of the bus, her heart pounding with excitement. She was finally going home after 3 years studying in Lagos. The small village of Umuahia waited for her, and most importantly, her childhood friend Emeka would be there. They had grown up together, played together, and before she left for university, something beautiful had started to grow between them. "Next stop, Umuahia Junction," the driver called out. Rain poured heavily outside as Adana gathered her bags. The other passengers dozed or stared out the foggy windows. It was late evening and darkness had already fallen across the countryside. As the bus approached the junction, Adana saw something that made her blood run cold. A car had skidded off the road and smoke was rising from its hood. "Stop the bus," she shouted, jumping to her feet. "There's been an accident." The driver reluctantly pulled over. "Be quick," he grumbled. "We can't stay long in this rain." Adana ran out into the downpour. As she got closer to the car, she realized with horror that the smoke was turning to flames. Someone was slumped over the steering wheel. "Hello, can you hear me?" she shouted, banging on the window. The man inside moved slightly, but his eyes remained closed. Adana pulled desperately at the door handle, but it was jammed. The flames were growing larger now, licking at the front of the car. "Help!" she screamed back toward the bus, but no one came. The rain was too loud, or perhaps no one wanted to get involved. With a silent prayer, Adana picked up a rock from the roadside and smashed the passenger window. Glass shattered everywhere as she reached in to unlock the door. The heat from the growing fire scorched her skin, but she ignored it. The man inside groaned as she unbuckled his seatbelt and began pulling him out. He was heavy, and Adana's small frame struggled under his weight. The flames had reached the dashboard now. "Please, wake up," she begged. "I can't carry you alone." With strength she didn't know she possessed, Adana dragged the man away from the car. They had barely made it 10 meters when a deafening explosion rocked the night. The force threw them both to the ground as the car burst into flames. Adana felt a searing pain in her eyes and face. Something had hit her. Maybe glass, maybe burning debris. She couldn't see properly anymore, just blurry shapes and bright spots. "Thank you," the man whispered, his voice weak but clear. "You saved my life." "What's your name?" Adana asked, trying to focus on his face through her damaged vision. "Chinedu," he replied. "Chinedu Okafor." That was the last thing Adana heard before darkness took her. When Adana woke up, everything was dark. "Hello," she called out, panic rising in her throat. "Is anyone there?" "I'm here," a gentle female voice answered. "I'm Dr. Bello. You're in the hospital, my dear." "Why can't I see?" Adana asked, her voice trembling. There was a pause, and then the doctor spoke softly. "The explosion caused damage to your corneas. There was glass and burning debris. We did everything we could, but..." "But what?" Adana whispered, though she already knew the answer. "The damage is severe. You may not regain your sight." Adana felt like the world was crushing down on her. "But I'm only 22, she whispered. "I just finished university. I was going home to start my life." "I'm so sorry, Doctor," Bello said, placing a comforting hand on Adana's arm. "The man you saved has been asking about you. He wants to thank you personally." "Chinedu," Adana remembered. "Is he okay?" "Yes, thanks to you. He has some burns and a broken leg, but he will recover completely." Later that day, Adana heard the sound of crutches and someone entering her room. "Adana," a deep voice called. "It's Chinedu, the man you pulled from the car." "Hello," she replied, turning her bandaged face toward his voice. "The doctors told me what happened to your eyes," Chinedu said, his voice breaking. "You lost your sight saving me, a stranger." "Anyone would have done the same," Adana said softly. "No, they wouldn't. The bus driver told me everyone else just watched. Only you ran to help." Chinedu took her hand. "I owe you my life, and I promise I will repay that debt. Whatever you need, whenever you need it, I will be there for you." Adana tried to smile through her tears. "What about your family? Won't they be worried about you?" "I have no family," Chinedu replied sadly. "My parents died years ago. I was actually driving to Umuahia to start a new job. I'm an engineer." "That's where I'm from," Adana said with surprise. I was going home after finishing university in Lagos. Then it's fate, Chinedu declared. God put me in your path for a reason. As days turned into weeks, Chinedu visited Adana every day. He read to her, brought her food, and made her laugh when she wanted to cry. When it was time for her to leave the hospital, he was there, offering to help. I've rented an apartment in Umuahia, he told her. It has 2 bedrooms. You can stay with me until you figure out your next steps. I couldn't impose like that, Adana protested. You saved my life, Chinedu insisted. Let me help you now. Reluctantly, Adana agreed. She had nowhere else to go. She couldn't bear the thought of being a burden to her aging parents, who barely survived on their small farm. And Emeka, the thought of him seeing her like this, blind and dependent, filled her with shame. On their first night in the apartment, as Chinedu helped Adana find her way around, she made a decision. Chinedu, she said firmly, I need to ask you something important. Anything, he replied. Don't tell anyone in Umuahia what happened. Don't tell them I saved you or how I lost my sight. But why? Please, Adana begged. I have my reasons. What she couldn't say was that she was thinking of Emeka. If he knew she was back, he would come looking for her. And if he found her blind, would he stay out of love or out of pity? She couldn't bear the thought of not knowing. Okay, Chinedu finally agreed. It will be our secret. That night, as Adana lay in her new bedroom, surrounded by darkness that would never again be broken by light, she made another decision. She would learn to navigate this new world of blindness. And then, when she was strong and independent again, she would find Emeka and discover if what they had was real. 3 months passed since the accident. Adana had adapted to her blindness better than anyone expected. She learned to cook again, to clean, and to move around without bumping into things. Chinedu was amazed by her determination. You're incredible, he told her one evening as they sat eating dinner she had prepared. Most people would have given up, but not you. Adana smiled in the direction of his voice. I was always stubborn. My mama used to say I got that from my papa. Have you thought more about contacting your family? Chinedu asked gently. They must be worried. Adana's smile faded. I sent them a letter saying I found a good job in Lagos and wouldn't be coming home yet. I can't let them see me like this. What she didn't say was that she had also asked about Emeka in that letter. Her mother's reply had mentioned he was still in the village, still single, and still asking about her. You can't hide forever, Chinedu said softly. I'm not hiding, Adana protested. I'm getting stronger. As the weeks turned into months, something unexpected happened. Chinedu and Adana grew closer. His admiration for her courage turned into something deeper. And Adana, surrounded by his kindness and strength, found herself thinking of Emeka less and less. One evening, as rain pattered against the windows, Chinedu took Adana's hands in his. I need to tell you something, he said, his voice serious. What is it? Adana asked, her heart suddenly racing. I think I'm falling in love with you, Chinedu admitted. I've tried not to because I know it might not be what you want, but I can't help it. Adana was silent for a long moment. Chinedu, I don't want you to love me out of gratitude or pity. It's not pity, he insisted. It's admiration, respect, and yes, love. The real kind. How can you be sure? She whispered. Because I see you, Adana. Not just your blindness, but all of you. Your strength, your kindness, your stubbornness. He laughed softly. Even your terrible singing in the shower. Despite herself, Adana smiled. My singing is not that bad. It's awful, he teased, but I love it anyway. That night, Adana lay awake thinking. She had come to care deeply for Chinedu. He had been her rock, her friend, her guide. But was it love? And what about Emeka, her first love? The next morning, she made a decision. Chinedu, she said over breakfast, I need to go back to my village, just for a visit. There's someone I need to see. Chinedu was quiet for a moment. Emeka? He finally asked. Surprised, Adana turned toward him. How did you know? You talk in your sleep sometimes, he admitted. You've mentioned his name. He was my first love, Adana explained. Before I left for university, we promised to wait for each other. I need to know if what we had was real." "I understand," Chinedu said, though his voice was sad. "When do you want to go?" "Next week," Adana decided. "Will you take me?" "Of course," Chinedu promised. "I'll be with you every step of the way." The journey to Umuahia village was long and bumpy. As they neared her childhood home, Adana felt a mixture of excitement and fear. What would Emeka think when he saw her? Would he still want her now that she was blind? Chinedu helped her from the car and described their surroundings. "It's a small village, dirt roads, simple houses, children playing. It's peaceful." Adana smiled, inhaling the familiar sense of cooking fires and fertile earth. "My parents' house is that way," she pointed. "But first, I want to find Emeka." They asked a young boy playing by the road where Emeka lived. "Emeka is," the boy asked. "He's at the big house with the blue gate. He works for Chief Okoye now." Adana frowned. Emeka had always talked about starting his own business, not working for the village chief. When they reached the house, Chinedu knocked on the gate. A young woman answered. "We're looking for Emeka Easy," Chinedu explained. "Emeka," the woman called over her shoulder. "Someone is here for you." Adana heard footsteps approaching, then a familiar voice that made her heart skip. "Adana," Emeka gasped. "Is it really you?" "Hello, Emeka," she said softly, turning her face toward his voice. "What happened to your eyes?" he asked, his voice filled with shock. "Are you blind?" Before she could answer, the woman who had opened the gate stepped forward. "Emeka, who is this?" "This is Adana," Emeka replied, his voice strained. "An old friend from the village. Adana, this is Ngozi, my fiancé." The word hit Adana like a physical blow. "Fiancé? After all their promises?" "I see," she said quietly. "Congratulations to you both." An awkward silence fell until Ngozi spoke again. "Emeka, Chief Okoye is waiting for you to fix the generator. You know how he gets when the electricity is out." "Right," Emeka mumbled. "Adana, it's good to see you. Maybe we can talk later." "No need," Adana said, forcing strength into her voice. "I just wanted to say hello while I was visiting my parents." "Goodbye, Emeka." As Chinedu led her away, Adana held her tears until they were out of earshot. "He didn't wait for me," she whispered. "All those promises." Chinedu held her close as she cried. "I'm sorry, Adana. He didn't deserve you." That evening, as they sat on the porch of the small hotel where they were staying, Adana made another life-changing decision. "Chinedu," she said quietly, "do you remember when you said you loved me?" "I remember," he replied. "I still do. I think," she hesitated, "I think I might love you too, but I need to be sure. I need to know it's real." "How can I prove it to you?" Chinedu asked. Adana took a deep breath. "I want to test our love for 3 years." 3 years? Chinedu sounded shocked. 3 years, she confirmed. "The same amount of time I was away at university, the same time Emeka promised to wait for me and failed. If after 3 years you still want me, still love me despite my blindness, then I'll know it's real." Chinedu was quiet for a long moment. Then he took her hands in his. 3 years, he agreed, but on one condition. "What's that?" Adana asked. "That you let me court you properly during those 3 years. That we build a life together, even while you're testing me." Adana smiled. "I accept your condition." What she didn't tell him was the other half of her plan. A secret that would test not just his love, but his very character. The next day, Adana and Chinedu returned to Umuahia city. Life settled into a new pattern for them. Chinedu got his engineering job, and Adana started learning Braille and taking classes at a center for the visually impaired. 6 months into their 3-year test, Adana received surprising news from her doctor. "There's a new treatment," Dr. Bello explained during her checkup. "It might be able to restore some of your vision. Not completely, but enough to see shapes, maybe even faces." Adana's heart raced with hope. "When can we start?" "It's a series of surgeries," the doctor cautioned. "The first one can be next month, but I must warn you it's not guaranteed to work." That night, Adana told Chinedu about the treatment. His reaction surprised her. "That's wonderful news," he exclaimed, picking her up and spinning her around. "I'm so happy for you, Adana." His genuine joy touched her deeply. There was no hint of concern that she might leave him once she could see again, no sign that he preferred her dependent. The first surgery went well, but recovery was painful. Chinedu was by her side day and night, changing her bandages, administering her medication, reading to her when she couldn't sleep because of the pain. 1 month later, when the bandages came off, Adana could see vague shapes and movements. It wasn't much, but it was something. "I can see your outline," she told Chinedu, tears streaming down her face. "You're tall, very tall." Chinedu laughed through his own tears. "Yes, I'm tall, and you're beautiful." Over the next year, Adana underwent 3 more surgeries. Each one improved her vision slightly. She could now make out colors, distinguish faces if they were close enough, and even read large print. But she kept a secret from Chinedu. Her vision was better than she let on. By the end of the 2nd year, she could see almost normally, though she pretended otherwise. She still used her white cane, still asked him to describe things to her, still needed his help with many tasks. It wasn't that she wanted to deceive him. Rather, she needed to know. Would he stay with her if she remained blind? Would his love endure even if she never regained her sight? As their 3rd year together began, Chinedu surprised her one evening. "Adana," he said, kneeling before her, "I know we agreed on 3 years, but I can't wait any longer. These past 2 years have been the happiest of my life. Will you marry me?" Even through her pretend blindness, Adana could see the ring he held out, a simple gold band that must have cost him months of savings. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." The wedding was set for 3 months later, exactly 3 years after the accident that had brought them together. As the day approached, Adana wrestled with her conscience. Should she tell Chinedu the truth about her vision before they married? But each time she tried, fear stopped her. What if he felt betrayed? What if he no longer trusted her? After the wedding, she promised herself, I'll tell him everything after we're married. Unknown to Adana, someone else had discovered her secret. Ngozi, Emeka's fiancé, had moved to Umuahia City after getting a job at the same company where Chinedu worked. She had recognized Adana at the market one day and watched in shock as the supposedly blind woman read a price tag when she thought no one was looking. For weeks, Ngozi followed Adana, gathering evidence. She saw her reading a newspaper while waiting for Chinedu, noticed how she avoided obstacles without her cane when she thought she was alone, watched her admire flowers with seeing eyes when she believed no one was watching. Instead of confronting Adana, Ngozi developed a plan that would reveal Adana's deception in the most public and humiliating way possible. 1 week before the wedding, Ngozi approached Chinedu at work. I need to tell you something about your fiancé, she said, her voice dripping with false concern. Something you deserve to know before you marry her. Chinedu frowned. What are you talking about? Adana is not blind, Ngozi declared. She's been lying to you all this time. I've seen her reading, watching TV, even admiring herself in store windows when she thinks no one is looking. That's ridiculous, Chinedu snapped. I've been with her for almost 3 years. I would know. Would you? Ngozi challenged. Or have you been too blinded by guilt and gratitude to see the truth? She saved your life, yes, but now she's manipulating you. Get out, Chinedu ordered. I don't want to hear these lies. But Ngozi's words planted a seed of doubt. That evening, as he watched Adana navigate their home with practiced ease, he found himself wondering, was it possible? Could she see more than she admitted? The night before their wedding, Chinedu couldn't sleep. The doubt had grown into something ugly, a feeling of betrayal that gnawed at his heart. If Adana had been deceiving him all this time, what else had she lied about? Did she even love him at all? By morning, anger had replaced confusion. As he dressed for his wedding, Chinedu made a decision. If Adana had indeed been faking, he would expose her deception. In front of everyone they knew. The morning of her wedding day dawned bright and clear. Adana stood in her room, trembling with excitement as her friends helped her into her wedding gown, a beautiful creation of white lace and tiny pearls. "You look like an angel," her mother whispered, adjusting her veil. "Mama," Adana said, squeezing her mother's hand, "I have something to tell you, something wonderful." "What is it, my daughter?" "I can see," Adana confessed quietly. "My vision has been returning for over a year now. I didn't tell anyone because—" She hesitated. "Because you wanted to test Chinedu's love," her mother finished for her. "Oh, my stubborn child. Love isn't something to be tested like soup, to see if it has enough salt." "I know that now," Adana admitted. "I'm going to tell him everything right after the ceremony. No more secrets." Her mother sighed. "Secrets have a way of coming out when we least expect them to, but Chinedu is a good man. He will understand." At the church, guests filled the pews. Adana's father waited to walk her down the aisle. The music began and the doors opened. Adana could see Chinedu standing at the altar, handsome in his dark suit. His face was serious, too serious for a groom on his wedding day. As she walked toward him, Adana noticed something strange. Ngozi was seated in the front row, smirking. Next to her was Emeka, looking uncomfortable. When Adana reached the altar, the pastor smiled. "Who gives this woman to be married?" "I do," her father replied, placing her hand in Chinedu's before stepping back. Chinedu's hand was cold, his grip tight. "Dearly beloved," the pastor began, "we are gathered here today." "Wait." Chinedu's voice cut through the church like a knife. "Before we continue, there's something I need to say." A confused murmur ran through the congregation. Adana felt her heart begin to race. "Chinedu," she whispered, "what's wrong?" He turned to face the guests. "3 years ago, this woman saved my life," he announced. "She pulled me from a burning car and lost her sight in the process. Or at least, that's what she wanted me to believe." Gasps echoed through the church. Adana's blood ran cold. "Chinedu, please," she begged. "Let me explain." But he wasn't listening. "For 3 years, I've dedicated my life to caring for her, loving her, believing she needed me. But it was all a test, a cruel game to see if I would stay with a blind woman." He turned to Adana, his eyes hard with anger. "Except you're not blind, are you, Adana? You've been able to see for a long time now." Tears streamed down Adana's face. "Yes, I can see," she admitted. "But it's not what you think. I was going to tell you today after the ceremony." "Convenient timing," Chinedu scoffed. 3 years of lies, and you choose to come clean after I've already said, I do?" From the front row, Ngozi spoke up. "I tried to warn you, Chinedu. She's been using you all this time." "That's not true," Adana cried. "I love you." "If you loved me, you wouldn't have deceived me," Chinedu replied coldly. "A marriage can't be built on lies." He turned back to the stunned congregation. "There will be no wedding today. I'm sorry for wasting your time." With that, he walked down the aisle and out of the church, leaving Adana standing alone at the altar. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by Adana's quiet sobs. Then, to everyone's surprise, Ngozi stood up. "I think everyone should know the whole truth," she announced loudly. "Adana has been pretending to be blind to trap Chinedu into marrying her. I caught her reading price tags at the market, watching TV when she thought no one was looking." "That's enough," Adana's father roared, stepping forward. "My daughter is not on trial here." But the damage was done. Whispers spread through the church like wildfire. Adana felt the weight of 100 judgmental stares. Unable to bear it anymore, she turned and ran from the church, her wedding dress catching on the pews as she fled. Outside, she collapsed on the church steps, her body shaking with sobs. How had everything gone so wrong? Why hadn't she told Chinedu the truth sooner? She didn't know how long she sat there before she felt a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Adana." She looked up to find Emeka standing over her, concern in his eyes. "What do you want?" she asked bitterly. "To help you," he said simply. "This isn't right." "Why do you care?" Adana demanded. "You didn't wait for me. You moved on with Ngozi." Emeka sighed heavily. "I was a fool. When you didn't come back after university, I thought you'd forgotten me. Ngozi was Convenient, but I never stopped loving you. It doesn't matter now, Adana said, wiping her tears. Chinedu hates me. Everyone believes I'm a liar. Then tell them the truth, Emeka urged. The whole truth. Who would believe me now? I would, came a familiar voice. Adana looked up to see Dr. Bello standing nearby. The doctor stepped forward, addressing Emeka. I've been Adana's doctor since the accident. I can confirm that she was completely blind for nearly a year. The surgeries gradually restored her sight, but there was no guarantee they would work. Dr. Bello turned to Adana. I suspected you could see better than you let on, but I understood why you might be afraid to let go of the cane, the routines that made you feel safe. It wasn't just that, Adana admitted. I needed to know if Chinedu loved me for me, not out of guilt or pity, if he would stay even if I never saw again. Dr. Bello nodded. A understandable fear if misguided in execution, but now you need to tell him everything, including why you saved him in the first place. Adana frowned. What do you mean? The truth about the accident, Dr. Bello said gently, about how you recognized his car that night. Emeka looked confused. What is she talking about, Adana? Adana took a deep breath. The night of the accident. It wasn't the first time I saw Chinedu. He used to visit our university. He was friends with one of my professors. I had seen him many times, admired him from afar. I even knew his name. So when you saw his car that night, Emeka began. I knew who was inside, Adana finished. I didn't run to help a stranger. I ran to help the man I had secretly admired for months. At that moment, they heard footsteps. Adana looked up to see Chinedu standing nearby, his face a mask of confusion. Is that true? He asked hoarsely. You knew who I was before the accident? Adana nodded, unable to speak through her tears. Chinedu moved closer, kneeling before her on the church steps. Why didn't you tell me? How could I? She whispered. You were so grateful, so determined to repay me. If you knew I had feelings for you before, you might have thought you owed me more than friendship. I wanted your love to be real, not born from obligation. Understanding dawned on Chinedu's face. So you tested me? For 3 years? Yes, Adana admitted. And when my sight started returning, I was afraid. Afraid you might think I wasn't the same person you fell in love with. Afraid you might leave once I didn't need you anymore. Didn't need me? Chinedu repeated. Adana, I never stayed because you needed me. I stayed because I needed you. Your courage, your determination, your joy, despite everything you'd lost. Those are the things I fell in love with. Then why did you leave me at the altar? Adana asked, her voice breaking. Chinedu hung his head. Because I was hurt. Because for a moment I believed you had manipulated me. Ngozi showed me pictures she'd taken of you, reading, looking at flowers, things a blind person couldn't do. Ngozi, Adana gasped. She was spying on me. From behind them came slow applause. They turned to see Ngozi standing at the church doors, a cold smile on her face. Bravo, she said mockingly. What a touching scene. The blind girl who isn't really blind. The hero who isn't really a hero. Why are you doing this? Emeka demanded. Because she has everything, Ngozi snapped. The perfect love story, the devoted man, the admiration of everyone who knows her. While I got her leftover boyfriend who still calls her name in his sleep. Emeka stepped back as if slapped. Is that all I am to you? A leftover? You know what's funny? Ngozi continued, ignoring him. I actually was happy when I discovered Adana's secret. Finally, the perfect girl had a flaw. Finally, she would get what she deserved. And what is it that I deserve? Adana asked quietly. To know how it feels to be second choice, Ngozi spat. To be the one who isn't enough. Dr. Bello stepped forward. That's enough, Ngozi. Your hatred has caused enough pain today. Chinedu stood up, facing Ngozi. You deceived me. You made me doubt the woman I love on our wedding day. I only told you the truth, Ngozi insisted. She can see. She did lie. Yes, but you didn't tell me why, Chinedu replied. You made me believe she was using me, when, in reality, she was afraid of losing me. He turned back to Adana, taking her hands in his. I owe you an apology. I should have trusted you enough to ask for an explanation instead of humiliating you in front of everyone. And I should have trusted you with the truth, Adana admitted. We both made mistakes. Is it too late? Chinedu asked softly. Can you forgive me? Before Adana could answer, the church doors opened fully. The pastor stepped out, followed by many of the wedding guests who had remained inside. The bride and groom have returned, the pastor announced, and I believe we have a wedding to finish. Adana looked at Chinedu in surprise. You still want to marry me? After everything? More than ever, he assured her, but only if you can forgive me for doubting you. There's nothing to forgive, Adana whispered. We both needed to learn to trust. As they stood up to return to the church, Adana noticed Emeka confronting Ngozi. We're done, he told her firmly. I won't be with someone who would hurt others like this. Ngozi's face crumpled. But what about our engagement, our plans? They were built on lies, Emeka replied, just like you accused Adana of doing. The difference is she lied out of fear of losing love. You lied to destroy it. Inside the church, Adana and Chinedu stood once more before the altar. This time, when the pastor asked if anyone objected to their union, there was only silence. By the power vested in me, the pastor finally declared, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. As Chinedu lifted her veil, Adana looked into his eyes, truly looked without pretense or fear, and saw nothing but love reflected back at her. I can see you clearly now, she whispered. And I can see you, he replied, all of you, and I love every part. Their kiss sealed more than just their marriage. It sealed a promise, to trust, to be honest, and to love each other not despite their flaws, but because of the strength it took to overcome them. As they walked back down the aisle hand in hand, Adana caught sight of Dr. Bellows smiling proudly and her parents wiping away tears of joy. Even Emeka gave her a gentle nod, a silent blessing for her new life. Outside the church, the sun shone brightly, illuminating a path forward that they would walk together, seeing clearly, loving truly, holding nothing back.